Well, welcome you guys, or welcome back. Some of you are here for the first time because maybe you just found us, or maybe you weren't able to join us live yesterday, and some of you are back again because you got some value out of yesterday. And so whether this is your first time or your second day with us, we want to say welcome to the CEO Spring Reset Experience. You're in the right room if you've been feeling overwhelmed by your schedule, or you've been overthinking your decisions, or you've been overflowing your inboxes. Can anyone relate to any or all the above, right? And that's why over the next 3 days, we are going to take you from cluttered to clear. So that way you can create the space you need to breathe, and think and grow this business that God has called you to. Because when we have so much on top of us all the time, then it's really hard to breathe, think, and grow something, right? And so that's why we're doing this work this week. So first things first, you want to make sure that you have your guide, your Spring Reset guide in front of you, because we're going to be workshopping through that today. So we'll keep dropping that link in the chat for those of you who are on live. If you're watching the replay, it should be linked to wherever the replay is. Speaking of which, quick little housekeeping today. Did you get the replay email? Inside the replay email was not only 2 ways to watch the replay, there was also a bonus implementation tool. Yesterday's was the CEO Day framework that only comes to you via that email. If you did not get that email, I want you to go right now to redeemhertime.com/reset. So if you can stick that one, Tracy, in there, just the reset directly one. That is how you get registered. So that way we are sending you all of the replays and those bonus tools on the back end, because I know we're going to have people that are, able to be here certain days and not, so we don't want to miss anybody. So if you did not get a replay email, make sure that you are registered. I want to show you guys real quick. One of the things that I love is being able to listen to replays on the go. Now there's something to sitting down in front of a screen. If you like the YouTube version, you can just click right in that email and just watch right there with your workbook. But especially if you've already been to a session and you just want to hear it again, it's really nice to be able to throw some earbuds in or put it on speakerphone. And so we created a private audio feed. Okay, it works like a podcast, except it's private, so you have to get access. So the way that you get access, Tracy, if you can drop the replay link in the chat for them, you have to click on this link. It's free. You have to ask, it'll ask your name and your email address. And then you're going to, if you do it on your phone, it'll say, do you want to continue? Click yes, and it'll take you right to the podcast platform of your choice. If you do it on your computer, that's fine. Then open up the email on your phone. It looks like this. So you've got the picture of what it looks like. Scroll to where it says start listening. When you click there, it'll ask you which podcast platform you prefer. You pick the one that you want, and then it takes you right to that podcast platform. And then it shows up just like a regular podcast. Okay, so this is how we're giving you this private audio feed, but there are a couple little back end steps you need to take. You need to use that link, the replay link, in order to get access to that audio replay feed. And then you need to make sure you open that email on your phone or whatever device you want to listen to via your podcast app. And that's where it will prompt you to add it. So if you have any questions, you're not able to get that email or get it in, please reach out to me, Lissa@redeemhertime.com. I want to make sure everybody's got access to that option for the replay, because sometimes it's really nice to be able to go back and listen again. Okay. Next question. Have you joined the Redeem Her Time community? That's where we're having some conversation after our session each day, where as things are starting to kind of simmer and sift a little bit and you're starting to try implementing, it's a great place to start, sharing some of those. Hey, here's how it's going. Here's what's working or not working. Here's what I'm excited about. Here's what I'm not sure about. So join us over there inside the community. If you remember, yesterday I gave you guys permission and direction to introduce yourself, tell us about your business, and promote something, right? When was the last time that you promoted something that you were doing? We want to hear what you are promoting, what you're offering. Your next client, your next connector, your next collaborator might be sitting in the room, okay? So if we have something that we are called to grow, we want to make sure that we're sharing it. All right, so we were kind of having a little chat before we hit record a minute ago. Before we jump into day 2 to declutter your decisions, I want to hear an aha or a win that you had from the calendar reset yesterday. Who here either maybe identified an orange that you're going to make time for, or a Skittle that's taking up too much time? We talked about how those Skittles are little and sometimes they take up more time than oranges. Or maybe you noticed an external distraction that's pulling you off, or an internal one that's like silently sabotaging. We're going to kind of get into that today. Or maybe you made a CEO decision about those CEO operating hours and you put them in your planner, and maybe you did something to protect them, right? Feel free to drop that in the chat, but I would love maybe one or two people who either were on live yesterday or you listened to the replay, and so you know what things we talked through yesterday, that'd be willing to unmute and share an aha or an I did it. So whether it was just kind of a realization that you had or a step that you took, I think that would be really fun to be able to hear. If there's anybody, just kind of wave, unmute and start talking, and that way we'll make sure that we get you in.
Yes.
Michelle.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Hi. Or good afternoon, I should say.
Right?
I, like you had mentioned, how our Skittles take more time than we realize. And I loved the declutter step that we did in step 2 is to identify those, and then how can we eliminate them and minimize them. And I think, and like you also said too, that sometimes the Skittles in the seasons of life can actually be oranges in a season of life. Yeah. And so it made me not to like totally ignore it, but yet at this season to learn how to minimize them, like, making sure that I have a plan, making sure that I follow the plan, or when I'm feeling tired and I don't want to do anything, what am I going to do? I'm going to minimize my excuses and say, okay, what is it time for? And I love how you brought that in too. So thank you.
Yeah, that question, you guys, is so pivotal. For sure, the best plan is to know what it's time for in your week before your week starts. I say avoid the crash landing to Monday and hoping to get to Friday and something having gotten done. But sometimes in the moment, right, Rochelle just reminded us, sometimes in the moment, that's what brings us back to the presence of our time and the purpose of our time. What is it time for? Like, wait. And when you guys join the community, my free gift to you is a screensaver that asks that question. What is it time for? In fact, I had someone share the other day. She goes, I think of you every time I pick up my phone because I have to look at that question before I click to wake it up. And this is probably one of those things that we are picking up when it's not time for it. And it's sucking up a lot of our time. So, yeah. All right. I'm seeing some things come over in the chat, which I love. I realize I don't have to work Monday through Friday. Yay. So I decided not to work on Mondays other than our weekly accountability meeting. I love it. I love it. My win from yesterday was I relaxed after appointments. The rest of the week are work days. Yes. I love that because you're building in some of that. I need to unplug from working time in order to be refreshed. I keep putting off one big thing and do everything else, and then I don't do it. I also realized I am doing the checkbox work, but not the heart work of committing to the decisions. I write them down and go. Yay, check the box, right? But then the next day it was as if I never even wrote it down, right? It's so true. And be thinking about, Carol and I were talking about this because she was the first one in the room earlier. Where are you putting that in your day or week, right? Those important things, when we leave them till Friday afternoon, chances are it's going to get pushed till Monday, right? So if it really matters, or it's something that you find I just keep putting off, how can you put this closer to the front? So yay, and Laura's going to help with that. I love it. I realized I have less hours in the week to work on my business. Okay, and we talked about that yesterday, right? What's the reality of the season you're in? And how do we then go, okay, what time do I have? What time can I consistently commit to? And then what can I do with that time? So don't feel bad. I love this. You're saying I've got 4 hours a week. Okay. So we can make that mean I've only got 4 hours a week, or we can say I have 4 hours a week. And there's a whole different, perspective shift when we look at the abundance of 4 hours versus, feeling like that's a limit or a lack that we have. So I love the decision you made, Jen, and how you put it into your season. And now we want to get strategic with what to do with those 4 hours. My win is seeing where I need to figure out what has to be done and when I can be flexible. Yeah. When does there have to be a rigid boundary on something, and when can I have a little bit of flex? I love that. And sometimes we do need both. I wasn't on the call yesterday, but I did ignore a former client who was texting urgent requests to talk late Saturday and on Easter since I had family in town. Yes. Having some boundaries on your time and when you respond, right? You're the CEO. I always say you get to decide. You guys, I love it. You're already seeing you have time and there's value in your time. And you're starting to think about the answer to the question, what is it time for or not time for, right? And so yesterday wasn't just about filling or clearing your calendar. It's really about how you step up and lead your time like a CEO, right? And today we're going to start really thinking and making decisions like a CEO. But before we jump into that, right, here's the thing. Even when we create space, even when we write things down in our calendar, right, what happens? Life, Skittles, the overthinking, the self-sabotage we're going to get into today, right? Which is why what we're talking about today matters. And why we are also doing the implementation session in 2 weeks, because a lot of life is going to happen as you work on implementing this and making it work for you. And so we want to be coming back 2 weeks from today on April 21st. For those of you who want to take this to the next level of really dialing it in and locking it in, that's what we called it, the lock it in session, because we're going to be making this personal. We're going to be like processing through the things that you've been trying and what's been working and what's not been working. And we're really going to make sure that this becomes your new norm. Okay? Because how many of us have said, okay, I'm going to start Monday. And then the next Monday, okay, I'm starting Monday. Right? What if like you're like, wow, like back in April of 2026, that's when I made these decisions and then I just committed to them because I had systems and I had support around them. So if you have not grabbed a spot yet, we've already had people that are grabbing them. You can head to that link there and grab it. It's only $27 through Friday. All three of us will be there to support you. And we're even going to give you a little action guide with some things you can be thinking about between now and then that's going to help you stay in that CEO mindset. So, all right, speaking of not overthinking, we are going to hand this over to Laura today, who's going to help us with that part of it. So, Laura, I'm going to remove my pin and find you and get you up there and let you take it away.
I guess it would help if I unmute, wouldn't it? Welcome, everybody. I'm excited to be here. As Lissa had said, you're going to leave the workshop today with one clean decision made and a plan for implementing your decision, or at least know how to create an effective plan for implementing your decision. You're also going to have that opportunity, like she was telling you, to get our support in implementing all of the decluttering plans you're coming up with through this event here. And I think that's really important as a mindset coach. That is such a good opportunity, especially if you tend to get tripped up by analysis paralysis and in coming up with an implementation plan, or if you procrastinate once you have your plan, then that lock it in session is going to be really key. So how we're going to get you to that clean decision and knowing how to create your implementation plan for this decision today is we're going to use our diagnose, declutter, decide, and design framework. So let me walk you through what we're going to be doing here today. We're going to diagnose why making your decisions can feel so messy and hard. Then we're going to declutter the process by simplifying the decision making to focus on one decision. We're going to sort through all of the mental and emotional noise around that decision. And then we're going to align our decision with two powerful decision filters. And with the clarity that the decluttering is going to provide to us, we're going to actually decide today on the call. You'll make your decision and you'll choose your path forward. And then I'll go over really quickly how to design an implementation plan that will actually make it to where you can show up and make your decision be the right decision, regardless of whether or not it creates that perfect result you have in mind. And that's how we're going to stop all the second guessing and beating ourselves up and stuff like that. So I just want to check in with you. Now that you have the roadmap of what we're going to be doing today, are you in for that? Give me a thumbs up or type yes in the chat if that sounds good to you. Just let me know. Okay, I saw some thumbs up there. That's good. Now I will confess, I have a really hard time teaching and watching the chat. That is not my strong suit. So I'm going to have Lissa and Tracy, like, y'all unmute. If there's something in the chat that like I need to look at right then, y'all just interrupt me because I'll get squirreled if I'm like totally watching the chat. I'll try and watch it, but just have to confess, that's not my strong suit. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to start with diagnosing. Now, most people who struggle with making powerful decisions in their business misdiagnose this pattern. They misdiagnose it as a character flaw, that something's wrong with them. And I hear my clients all the time, and I hear this whenever I'm in groups of entrepreneurs. I'm so indecisive. I'm not good at making decisions. I'm an overthinker. And they take this on as like it's some kind of character flaw or an identity that they wrap themselves in. If you take nothing else away from this session, I want you to take this more accurate diagnosis of what is happening when your decision making gets bogged down by the mental and emotional clutter. That just take this more accurate diagnosis. Struggling with decision making is not a character flaw. It's simply a signal that your brain is overloaded and craving safety and certainty in a situation that involves risk and uncertainty. That's all it means. It's just your brain is sending up like a little flare. You know, those flare guns, like if you're in an emergency situation, you fire off the flare and it's like, help, I need help. That's what your brain is doing with all of this paralysis and, analysis paralysis, procrastination, all that kind of stuff. So the more accurate diagnosis that it's just a signal, your brain is signaling it needs help, feeling more safe and certain. And that accurate diagnosis is really good news because that means you just need a way to create the sense of safety and certainty that you're going to be able to handle the risk and uncertainty that's involved. And that's what this process is going to give you today. It's going to help give you that sense of safety and certainty that you're going to be able to handle come what may. And that's going to help. So overthinking, second guessing, procrastination, perfectionism. We heard some of that in the chat yesterday and today already. Those are really common patterns that I see around decision making and implementation of decisions and action plans. And these sabotage patterns are classic symptoms of imposter syndrome. If you've never heard this term, imposter syndrome, that's okay. It's a well-researched psychological pattern where people doubt themselves and their capabilities. They fear that others are going to view them as a fraud, even when they have the skills, the credentials, and the accomplishments to prove their credibility. They still get all insecure about it. And then that fuels these kinds of sabotage patterns. And that's what I specialize in my coaching practice is I coach entrepreneurs with imposter syndrome and those who struggle with sabotage patterns. And you're going to be getting along with the replay today. You'll get my 5-minute self-sabotage assessment. And you can use that assessment to discover how imposter syndrome might be artificially limiting your success. You'll also, in that guide, get 3 of my best and simplest to implement strategies for interrupting those kinds of patterns so that you can more consistently grow your impact and income. So be sure and grab that when you get the replay email today. Okay. Inside my Empowered Transformation Accelerator method, that's what I use with my clients. I teach a full decision-making pathway, and it has multiple decision filters that help bring clarity, safety, and more certainty in your ability to handle all of the uncertainty and risk that are involved in entrepreneurship. Today, we're going to use a version of that decision-making pathway that's simplified, and we're going to zoom in on 2 of the easiest and most powerful of those decision filters. That's your goals and your values. So make sure you open your workbook because we're going to be tracking along with that workbook here from here on out. And we're going to be in the day 2 pages. We're going to start on page 1 of day 2. And so Tracy or Lissa just dropped in the link to get the guide if you haven't yet, but definitely have that open. And what we're going to start with is step 1. We're going to start the declutter process by deciding on one decision that we're going to make today. So I want to encourage you to choose one decision that maybe you've been kind of overthinking or spinning out on, and make that be something that really is going to move the needle for your business in quarter 2. So some kind of decision that's related to where you want to be at the end of quarter 2 would be good. And to keep it simple while you're learning the process, I always recommend you pick a decision that's kind of an either or decision. I'm either going to go with option A or I'm going to go with option B. And so that's just going to make it easier for you to focus on the process, on learning the process, and then you can use the process with more complex decisions down the road. So I'm going to use an example throughout today's workshop. My example decision is I need to make a decision about my quarter 2 lead generation strategy. What am I going to use to generate leads this quarter? And so option A for my example is I'm going to do a monthly workshop. And option B is I'm going to do regular social media content that generates DMs, and then I'm going to do a personal nurture follow-up strategy. So it's social media DM is option B. So that's my example. And what I want you to do is pick your decision and then write it there in the workbook. There's a little line for you to write the decision I've been overthinking is. Write what yours is. Mine was pick a quarter 2 lead generation strategy. And then decide on what's your option A and what's your option B. If you have any questions, if something isn't making sense, put that in the chat and I will help you out with that. Once you have, while we're doing this, I'm going to ask when you're done with this step, write done in the chat. So I get a sense of how many people are done so that we can move on. Awesome. Tracy, good job. I need to get my workbook open. There it is. Is anybody finding it hard to pick a decision? We can talk about that. No? All right. You guys are A+ students.
I have something.
Okay, yeah, tell me.
I have been mulling over because I have too many hands in different buckets. And I'm thinking, should I just focus on one thing, one business, and then later focus on the other business? And I've just been praying about it, and the Lord just like, well, what's in front of you? Be a good steward of what's in front of you. You don't necessarily have to make a decision one or the other. And so, so that's kind of where I'm at. So I have like an A, B, and C option.
Okay, that's fine.
So,
That's
you know,
fine.
I can just work a little bit in this season. It doesn't have to be because I guess I'm a perfectionist. And so if I'm doing health coaching and biblical counseling, and I know there's education that I have to pour myself in and learn in both of those. And so, so just, I think that's where I'm at.
Okay, so you could actually have this be the decision you work on is which one of those I want to prioritize. So we aren't making it either or, like all or nothing, but we're going to pick for the next certain amount of time. I'm going to make my priority be either health coaching or what was the other thing you said you had?
Yeah, biblical counseling.
Okay, yes. So you could do that as to I need to pick which one of those I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to still work on both, but I'm going to have one as my main focus for a certain time period. And so that could be the decision that you do today in the process. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. It Militia, you said it's hard to choose one. Tell me what makes it hard. Oh, you're still muted.
Well, there we go.
There you go. What makes it hard?
Well, I was really trying to think what decision I've really been like, stuck on because I've had a lot of so I came down to, I mean, like, what is
I'm having trouble
um,
understanding
kind
you.
of
Like your audio's cutting in and out. Am I the only one? Okay.
oh,
Okay.
sorry. I'm
You
so
can
sorry.
Okay.
try typing it, Militia, and let's see if we
Yeah,
can.
you can type it in the chat. That might work better.
Yeah.
That's okay. You type it in
Yeah.
the chat. And it's important to ask the question, like, what is making this hard for me? Because that's going to surface where it'll give you ideas about how you can make it safer for you to make that decision. So if you'll drop that in, I'll come back to it and look, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay. So once you do have your decision, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get all of the stuff that's spinning around in your head down on paper. And if you're like Militia and you're still feeling like this is just too hard to make a decision, do this step with that. Like, this is what's making it hard for me, and do a thought download on that. Just dump out all of the thoughts. So, when I so let me explain what I mean by a thought download. A thought download is just where we like brain dump. We just take everything that's swirling around in our head. We're going to take those thoughts captive and put them on the paper, or put them on your document if you're doing it digitally. That will work too. But I'm going to set a timer for 1 minute, and I just want you to free write all of the stuff that your brain is offering you. Like, your brain might be telling you, I'm afraid XYZ is going to happen, or I really worry that like, if I only focus on the health coaching, then I'm going to neglect the biblical counseling, might be an example from our earlier discussion. And so, like, list out, just jot it down. And I'm gonna start a little timer here for 1 minute. And I'm not fancy. I don't know how to do it on Zoom, but if Lissa does, she can start a 1 minute timer for us
I just
on there.
learned the other
But
day, so I'm going to try and see if I can do it.
okay, I'm gonna just have it on my phone, and I'll let you guys know when it goes off, you'll hear. Um, okay, I'm gonna come back over here and look at the chat while y'all do that. Okay, Carolyn, I would, since you're having a hard time finding a decision that you haven't made already, but you're having trouble implementing it, I'm going to suggest that you pick one of those that you're having trouble implementing, and let's make the decision fresh. Redecide that decision fresh. Because if you're not implementing it, you've got some stuff coming up that's preventing that. Let's explore it. So pick one of those as your decision. Okay. So hopefully you can always come back and do this process on your own, where you take your time with it and give yourself, 5 minutes to do the thought download. You'll surface more, but usually in the first minute, you're going to capture your most troublesome thoughts, the ones that are fueling most of the indecision or second guessing, that kind of stuff. Okay, Rochelle. You can listen to the replay. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so when you have your thought download, this is really helpful for doing this next step. Step 3, we're going to separate out the facts from your brain's story about those facts. So this is like a spring cleaning moment. Have you ever like cleaned out your junk drawer? You have to like dump everything out. And then the next thing you do is you kind of sort through everything. Okay, awesome. Good job, Militia. Okay, so now we're at that initial sorting phase. We're going to pull out from your thought download and list in the workbook. There's a little table. The left side says facts, and the right side says story. And what I want you to do is look in your thought download and look and pull out any facts that are there. Now, facts are objective details. They are things that everybody would agree on. And they are usually something that like you could see with a video camera, like if we had a little security camera, CCTV footage, look, watching your office, it would see things. It would be metrics that you would look at, like in your social media or your email. What are your metrics? It might be the things that are on your calendar, your bank account. The decision itself and the two options are also facts. Like they're part of the context of your decision. So you could write the decision and option A and option B as your first three facts. Your story are all of your brain's judgment, meaning, predictions, and just all of the sentences that have adjectives or adverbs in them about it. And so I always like to give the difference. My coach, when I went through certification, used this example, I think is where I got it from. But like a fact is we look on the thermometer and it says it is 80 degrees outside. Story, if there's 10 people in the room, we could have lots of different stories about 80 degrees. I live in Texas. If it's 80 degrees, I'm going, woo, it's cool for a change. But one of my good friends lives in Washington State. If it's 80 degrees, she's going, we had such a warm day. And notice the story is totally different. The fact was exactly the same. That's what I want you to notice when you look at your thought download. Pull out the facts, and then all that's left is going to be in your story side of this. All right. Do you have at least 2 or 3 facts down and 2 or 3 thoughts, stories down? Everybody? I want you to read through just the facts now. Read through the facts. Only one fact. Okay. I want you to read through the facts that you listed. And I know you could have at least 3 because you have the decision you're trying to make and option A and option B. So that's 3 at least. So Tracy probably has 4 facts. So look at the facts and then look at the story and notice how different those 2 lists make you feel. Usually when we can look at facts, so I came up with these facts for the decision I'm making. Fact 1, Q2 goal, 6 new clients by June 30th. Option A is monthly workshops. Option B is content and DMs. List size is a number. Time blocked for lead generation is Y number of hours, whatever that number of hours is. So like what the work we did yesterday gives you like your office hours are a fact that you could put in there. Now here's some stories. Is I have trouble getting started. That's a story. That's a story for sure. Tell me more about what causes you to have trouble getting started. You can unmute if you want to talk, or you can keep doing it in the chat. So I want you to listen to the stories I came up with for my example. If I choose wrong, I'll waste the quarter. If it flops, I'll feel exposed as a fraud. I should already know what to do. My list is too small. I hate social media. Those are all stories about my facts in my decision that I'm trying to make. So I have trouble getting started for sure is okay. ADHD is a fact. If you have been diagnosed with ADHD, you can put that in the fact column. Not enjoying a particular task. That's actually a story, but we can make that more factual for you to, if you can define the factual part that you're thinking about when you say you don't enjoy it. I hate social media as a fact. I know our facts often feel very, very true. I mean, our stories often feel very true, very factual, but I'm going to challenge you to strip it down to what would somebody who loves social media give as the facts? And that'll may help you see something more factually. If I had to put on the persona of someone who loves social media, what would they say the facts are? So they might say your facts are you have one social media account and you have 10 followers. Okay, those are facts. All right, so the reason this is important is because once you see the facts, that's what we want to be making our decision from. The story is all of the noise that we want to turn the volume down on. There is a time and a place for us to deal with all those stories. And that's what I do with my clients is I help them understand why those stories are coming up and we can reframe those stories. But for now, in this process, when you're making a decision, I want you focusing on facts. Stories feel 100% true, which is why they feel like facts. Yeah, yeah. And this is why, if you can distill it down to the facts, listen to the difference that I'm in my example. Q2 goals, 6 new clients by June 30th. Option A is monthly workshops. Option B is social media content and DMs. List size for me would be like 65 people. Time blocked for lead generation is I might have like 5 hours in a week that I could spend on lead generation. So those are the facts. Notice my brain easily came up with lots of stories about that. One of my stories is I hate social media. So like that is a story I'm really having to work on because I'm not going to choose that option B, if I'm letting that story drive my choice. But if I look at facts and I can go and look at what might be possible for me if I let go of that story, then I might say the facts tell me I want to go with option B. Okay, so that's just giving yourself the opportunity to strip out the story and look at the facts. Canva is my enemy. Okay. Yes. So you've got some facts and you've got some stories there, Danielle. Canva is my enemy is your story. And it takes 20 minutes to create a graphic. That's a fact. If you have timed it and you know it takes you 20 minutes to create a graphic, that's just a fact. You get to decide where you're going to plug that 20 minutes into your schedule if you really need to create a graphic. You get to also that fact could inform making a decision to delegate that to an unpaid intern or to hiring a VA and delegate that if that doesn't make sense for your overall strategy to spend 20 minutes designing a graphic. Does that make sense? There you go. All right. Okay, so I'm getting off track here. Let's move forward. So when you read through the facts listed in your facts column, notice how much calmer you feel than when you're reading the story. So now we want to align the decision using two filters. So we're going to take the facts and the context for our decision, and we're going to run them through a couple of decision filters. And those you'll find on the second page of day two's workbook pages. So we look at our decisions through the filter first of our goals, and that helps us stop drifting and wasting time, energy, money, all of our resources on things that don't actually create the results we're going for. So if identifying a goal stirs up a lot of anxiety or resistance, I want you to know that that's really common. Almost every client I work with has that symptom of imposter syndrome. That is a symptom of imposter syndrome, and we can totally work on that. If that's happening usually because you're using goals as a verdict on yourself or your business, and that raises the stakes. It puts a lot of pressure on the goal and yourself. So I want to tell you a story, give you an analogy or a metaphor to help you reframe that. Back in 2012, I did a triathlon. And as part of this triathlon, I had to swim a half mile in a lake surrounded by a crowd of people who were kicking me and hitting me, because we're all swimming together. The lake was really murky. And the finish line, like when I stood at the start line, I couldn't even see the finish line. It was around the bend of this lake. And so they had put buoys along the course so that you had something to sight on. And so you would jump in the water, you put your head down, you'd swim a few strokes, and you'd pop your head up and look for the buoys. And the buoys would tell you if you had started drifting off course. And that allowed you to catch it really quickly and move yourself back to swimming for the next buoy. And so they had little buoys on a rope attached to these bigger buoys. They were really huge, like huge buoys that were out in the water. And so at first, I was just sighting on the first big buoy, and I would swim and I would pop my head up and see if I was still close to the line of the little buoys and if I was headed in the direction of that buoy. And then once I got to the middle buoy, I could see the finish line. And so I could sight on the banner that said finish and keep going to stay on track. Your annual goal is like that finish line banner. It's pretty far away. It's hard to see. It's hard to really emotionally connect with, maybe. So you break it down into your quarterly goals and your monthly goals, and those become the bigger buoys that you sight on. This decision will become one of your small buoys. The result you want to create with this decision, because you have a reason for making this decision. You're making it to create some result. That's going to be one of your small buoys that should point you to your bigger quarter two buoy. So in your workbook, I have a question for you at the bottom of page 1. What I want you to write, my quarter two goal is. What are you trying to create in your business in quarter two? If you don't know that, that right there is a win from this workshop today, is you seeing that you don't have a buoy to sight on. That's going to make it really hard to make decisions. It's going to probably mean you're going to be drifting, getting off course. If doing a quarter two goal feels big for you, then write this month what I'm trying to create. Remember how I said part of the facts that I wrote down for my decision was that I wanted to create 6 new clients by June 30th. That would be a quarter two goal. That's my big buoy. So that's what I would write here. 6 new clients by June 30th. Then you're going to go to the top of the next page in your workbook, and it says, the desired outcome I want this decision to produce is. And so for me, this decision, I may be trying to create 10 sales calls or consults by May 15th with this particular decision I'm trying to make. And then maybe I want to create 30 leads by the end of April. So you can decide, what is this decision? When you make this decision, what are you looking to create with it? Does that make sense? This also helps you see if you're making decisions that are not anchored to something that moves the needle for your business. I have a lot of clients, they're making a lot of decisions and they're not making the decisions that actually do something for their business because those feel too scary. So they make lots of safe decisions about things that don't actually matter. Like, what color should I have my brand colors be? Instead of, how am I going to get clients this month? Okay, so once you have that written down, let's go to our next decision filter. Oh, and I want to say one more thing. Another reason a lot of the clients I work with are really uncomfortable with setting goals. And so another reason that that might be uncomfortable is if you beat yourself up when you don't hit your goal, that's going to make you very avoidant. And so the solution is not to stop setting goals. The solution is to change your relationship with the goals and with yourself so that you make it safe for you to show up and produce a result with your decision and use that result simply as data, not as a verdict on yourself, and to commit to exploring what happened with compassion and curiosity instead of beating yourself up. And that's going to make it a whole lot easier for you to set goals and stay on track. Okay. Our next decision filter is your values. When we align our decisions with our values, we prevent ourselves from making short-term decisions that create long-term regret or burnout. So just like we checked in to make sure the decision was in service of a business goal, we want to check in and make sure that the options that, we're going to assess the options against our values. Goals tell you what moves the needle. Values tells you what keeps you in integrity while you move the needle. And that's going to be really important because if you make a decision to go with an option that feels really out of integrity for you, you will sabotage it every single day. So it's best to really check in on this. Your values are the standards you're committed to living by, what you believe matters most and what you're unwilling to sacrifice for short-term results or long-term results even. So I've listed in the workbook a few options for you, but you feel free to write in whatever values are most important to you. And then you can pick your top 3 values for this season that you want to use as a decision filter for this particular decision.
Laura, what's the goals tell you what moves the needle and values tell you what?
Oh, yeah. Values tells you what keeps you in integrity while you're moving the needle.
Okay.
So like our goals are how, it's what we're going to do to move the needle, but the values make sure that we're actually staying in integrity in the way we pursue those goals. So what I want you to do is decide on the values that you want to use as your decision filter. And then think through in this little table, I want you to look at option A. What aspects of that option are in alignment with your values? And what aspects of option A might get you out of alignment with your values? Is there anything? This is like, and there might not be, but this is an opportunity for you to just consciously check in with it. So option A, what is in alignment with your values? What's out of alignment or potentially out of alignment? And do the same thing for option B. Now, don't overthink this. It's actually most helpful to go with your gut on this. Like when you look at it, you look at option A and then say out your values, and your gut will tell you. If you sit there and overthink it, you can make a case for almost anything. So I'm a big proponent of what does your gut tell you right there in the moment? What's your heart telling you? Because your heart is aligned usually with your values. And so if it's going to send up a red flag if something's out of alignment. Just pay attention to that. You're also not looking for a perfect choice. You're just using this as a chance to check and make sure you're making a choice you can stand behind. Okay, realizing I'm out of alignment. Yes, Carolyn, that's a huge win to have that realization. Um, yes. Yeah. And on the procrastination, I'm gonna highly encourage you to sign up for the lock it in session so we can work on that. Because some of that, I want you to get curious about why you're procrastinating, because there could be some things that you're out of alignment with. And then your job is to, how could I, if I want to create that result and the result itself is in alignment for me, then what about my plan, my action plan feels out of alignment for me? Check in with that. Okay. All right. So now we have diagnosed what makes it hard to make a decision. We've decluttered by narrowing the focus to one decision that moves the needle in your business for quarter 2. We've decluttered the swirl of facts and stories swimming around in your head about the decision. And we've used your quarter 2 goal and your values as decision filters to make sure we're investing our resources in something that's in service of our goal and that will keep us in integrity with what truly matters to us. And that means we're ready to decide. Okay, to receive. Oh, the link for that is in the chat. Lissa or Tracy, I don't have my little links page open today, but they'll drop a link for the workbook in the chat for you. And you can just download it. It's a PDF. Okay, when it comes to making a decision, we're going to make a clean decision that we're not going to second guess. Now, second guessing is where I want you to think if you're making a decision, it's like you're standing at a fork in the road, and you can either go path A, option A, or option B. You got 2 paths. And second guessing is where you're trying to stay at the fork in the road, but also take action. It just doesn't work. You won't move past the fork in the road if you're second guessing. That's what leads to all the procrastination. You'll sabotage your implementation with the second guessing. So I want to offer you a different option. We're going to make it okay for you to redecide, but not second guess. And here's the difference. When we go with redeciding as our strategy versus second guessing, what we're going to do is we're going to commit. We're going to go all in on our decision. We're going to like the reasons. We've looked at our decision filters. We like our reasons for making the decision at the fork in the road with the facts we have at the fork in the road. We're going to go all in on implementing that decision long enough to create a result, to create some data with it. Then we will that will put us at a new fork in the road, further down, closer to our goal. Whether we create the exact outcome we had hoped for or not, you will have shown up committed to creating the result. Then you're going to look at the result you create as data, not a verdict on you. And that lets you evaluate at the new fork in the road what you want your decision at that fork in the road to be. So you're making a new decision further down one of the paths. And if you commit to it and you are going to show up and let yourself create the outcome, and not beat yourself up if it's not the perfect outcome, but use that outcome as new facts. When you go through the decision process again, you've got new facts that's going to help you decide, okay, at the new fork in the road, what do I want to do now? Does that make sense? As opposed to second guessing is like taking one step forward. You're like, okay, I made my decision. And then I take one step forward and something scares me and I go back to the same fork in the road. And we never move forward towards our goals when we're doing that. This redeciding strategy allows you to actually move forward. And you are going to either win in the sense of create the outcome you want to create, or you're going to learn. You're going to get a win because you learn, you create data that lets you make another decision further down the line. So I want you to, in your workbook, you're going to check off, are you going to pick option A or option B? And then I want you to write in a date that you will commit to implementing until that date and creating your results. So give yourself a realistic time frame based on your decision, what you're trying to create. And I commit to not redeciding this decision until that date. So like for me, I might say, I'm not going to redecide this decision until I have used a strategy for lead generation for 1 month. Then I'm going to look at the data. How many leads did I create with that strategy? And then I have new facts. And then I can go back. And if I want to, I can put the same options in there. But you know what usually happens when you're all in and you're showing up and you're creating a result with your decision, you actually learn things that allow you to make even better decisions at the next fork in the road. And as long as you're not beating yourself up and you're telling yourself like, no, I showed up. I'm proud of myself for how I showed up. And I didn't get the result I was going for. Like in my example, like I wanted to create a certain number of leads by the end of May. Well, let's say I only got half that. Well, I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm going to have my own back. I'm going to say, I'm proud of you for showing up. Now let's get curious. Why did I only get half of the leads that I thought I was going to get? Okay. Then I want you to give yourself a back pocket thought. A back pocket thought, it's similar to an affirmation, but affirmations tend to be these pie in the sky, silly things that your brain does not believe, and it will backtalk you all day long when you're trying to practice like leads flow to me easily. My brain goes, no, they don't. And so I end up practicing, no, they don't, not leads flow to me easily. I would much rather you practice a thought that actually lands and creates an emotion that makes you feel like willing to go do the work, willing to implement your plan. You don't have to be excited about it. You don't have to feel confident. You don't even have to feel motivated. All you have to get to is willing. I'm willing to show up and take the next step. And so I would rather you practice a more realistic thought that your brain believes. So find a thought that will help you have your own back on this decision. For me, one of my go-to is I either win or learn, but either way, I'm creating momentum forward. That one, I really struggled with goals and stuff. And so another option could be I'll either create my desired outcome by my redecide date, or I'll learn something important that will set me up to create it going forward. Notice how that's like realistic. It's not pie in the sky. But it's creating a sense of safety for me that I'm going to be okay no matter what. Instead of, I have to hit my goal or I'm a terrible business person. That's definitely going to fuel some sabotage. Okay. So come up with something that helps you feel safe to pursue your implementation plan. And I've got 3 steps that you can use to make your plan. We are kind of out of time today on that. I talk too much, but here's the 3 steps to creating an implementation plan that you will actually implement. First, do a brain dump of everything you already know you need to do to implement your decision. Once you get all of that down on paper, then I want you to turn your brain loose to tell you all of its fears, insecurities, all of the reasons why it won't work, all of the stuff that the roadblocks you're gonna hit. Listen to it. Don't believe everything it says, but listen and get that all out on paper. And then we call those obstacles. And for every obstacle your brain comes up with, I want you to go back and come up with at least one strategy of how you're going to handle it if you actually encounter that obstacle. So, for example, if my brain goes, well, I don't know how to do DMs. I don't know how to nurture someone to a sales call or to a sale through my DMs. Well, then guess what? I'm going to YouTube it. Somebody out there is teaching that. And so my strategy would be I'm going to look on YouTube to find a strategy to use for DMing. That would be my strategy is I'm going to YouTube it or Google it, or I'm going to ask my business coach, something like that. That could be a strategy. Another strategy that might work for you is if I don't know how to do something, I'll just hire it out. If you have more money than you have time, maybe hiring it out could be a really good strategy. Another strategy I would highly suggest, I'm going to sign up for the Lock It In session. I'm going to let Lissa and Tracy and Laura help me with this. That could be a strategy for you. And so when you have your action items, you've thought through the obstacles and you've come up with strategies for handling anything that you can think of that might come up for you, you give your brain, like it just goes, ah, she's got this. Like I don't have to be on red alert all the time. And your brain quiets down and it lets you get to work. All right. Now, what I do see happen at this point is people will go, got it. I have my decision. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to implement. I'm going to do my plan. And then, oh, about a week from now, they start second guessing everything. Should I do this or maybe that? I don't know. Did I make the bad decision? I don't know. And that's exactly why we have that lock it in session. So after you've had a chance to start applying this, be prepared. Your brain is going to throw those kinds of thoughts up at you. It's going to send you into a sabotage pattern. And so we can help you filter through all of that and get you back on track. We can help you sight on the next buoy and get yourself back on track in that lock it in. So you don't need more information. You do need help solidifying and making it safer to implement the plans that you create in these 3 days with us. Okay. All right. I'm going to look in the chat and see what you guys had to say. Yes. Yeah. I never teach affirmations, especially the one size fits all pie in the sky nonsense. Um, I, yeah. I use back pocket thoughts, and that is what I call them. And that's where you take your specific thoughts about your fears and stuff, and we find something that feels believable for you. And that works so much better. Yep. Yeah. And it's not about being optimistic or pessimistic. It's about being honest with yourself. Your brain requires you to be honest with it. Because it will backtalk you if you start trying to get it to believe stuff it doesn't believe, and it sabotages you. Great. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions? Anything you want to discuss before we wrap up? Sorry, I kind of went over. All right, well, I'm going to hand it back to Lissa then and let her close this out.
No, you were great. That was amazing. And thank you, because this is something we waste so much time on, you guys, right? Is this overthinking. And I love the commit to not redeciding until. Like, that's what we talked about in the beginning. Like, make the decision, give it some time to flesh out and work itself out, and, you know, give yourself that time where you will revisit it, knowing this doesn't have to be forever. I think that helps us to be able to make the decision and move forward, knowing that I do have a date I'm going to revisit this and double check in with it. So I love that. Okay, so as we wrap up today, you guys, I hope this was really valuable. Not only have you made some decisions around your time yesterday on our calendar reset today, you've actually made a decision about something that maybe you've been putting off or not really realizing. I just need to make a decision on this. And so this is going to be a really powerful tool that you can keep using as we go. So we're going to be sending out the replay email, but I want to check in on this because I was having a little chat over here with Tracy before we started today about the replay from yesterday. Would you guys tell me in the chat, did you receive the email the replay email yesterday? It shows it went out. It shows it had 100% deliverability. She couldn't find it in her inbox. Then I couldn't find it. Then I tried testing it with the two of us and it didn't come to either of us and I started freaking out. Okay, so I get some yeses. If you, for some reason, did not, let me grab the link to it because I just want to make sure that everybody's got the replay from yesterday. This will take you straight to that email. And like I said, we're putting the replay. There'll be a YouTube version if you like the visual, and then there will be the audio version. You do need to click the little image that looks like a graphic from a podcast. That will take you to that sign-in form I showed you at the beginning, which will then give you your private access code because that is a private audio feed. So just want to make sure that everybody got that because I will be sending out today's in just a little bit. So you're going to want to be watching your inbox. And if you guys were listening, did you hear Laura mention what she's sending you today? She's sending you a 5-minute self-sabotage assessment. Okay. And so this is going to be really an impactful tool to now from the place of you just made a decision, taking that assessment and really looking at where you might be doing some self-sabotaging. I think it's going to help you think clearer and not keep, holding yourself back. And then, of course, we're going to be freeing up time and bandwidth and all the chaos and clutter that goes on around all of those things. So make sure that you are checking for that. As soon as I get the replays up in all those spots, I will send that replay email out. Also, if you have been sitting here today, what business bestie do you know that you hear her swirling around a decision? Right? And probably the two of you together have been having those conversations about those things. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to register because it is not too late for you to invite a business bestie or two or a few and say, oh my goodness, Laura just took us through this amazing exercise today and showed us how to actually make a decision. And I thought of you. Not that we're, saying she doesn't make decisions, but we all need help, right? So send her that link, redeemhertime.com/reset. That way she will automatically get access to day 3 as well as the replays from day 1 and day 2 as soon as I get that up there. If for some reason you're hearing this, you're seeing this, and you are not receiving those emails, that's the link you want to click because that's where they're going to come from. So redeemhertime.com/reset. If you did not get the email, thank you, Jen. Click that link that I just dropped a little bit above there because that will at least open it up in your browser. And then you can save that. And I don't know what's going on in the back end. So I saw some of you guys chatted some things about whitelisting and stuff like that. So I will do some figuring out, but it did say all of them were delivered yesterday. I want to make sure you guys got them. Okay, before we go, here's where we're going to start the lock-in process, you guys. What was an aha or a will do from today? Okay, what was an aha or a will do? Who made some progress on a decision that you've been overthinking or putting off? Who feels really good that you actually made the decision or you set the date for when you're going to revisit this decision and then make the next decision? I want to see some stuff in the chat. Or maybe 1 or 2 people want to unmute real quick. It's always fun to hear your voices. What was your aha or your will do from today before we get off of this? Because you know what's going to happen. I don't know. Laura, what's the statistic on how many decisions we make a day? Do you know what that is? I know it's a crazy number.
God. Yeah, it's crazy number. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but I do know we have anywhere from 40,000 to 100,000 thoughts in a day.
Right.
So our decisions are, we are part of those.
So likely you're going to get off this call and you're going to have to make a decision probably within the next few minutes, right? And so I want you coming out of here not distracted by all of that, but really committed to the decision that you just made. So
Kathy, did you want to say something? I saw you unmute.
Yeah, I'll share. This was absolutely great because right before this, I was sitting here working through a decision. My podcast right now is seasonal. But for a while now, I've been wondering, should it go weekly? And so I've been pondering that, and this just took me right through the process. And I'm left now with when to start, whether I want to start, because I've got some other things in place, whether I want to start, next month or whether I want to wait until September. So that's the next decision I have to make.
Yeah.
Sometimes one decision leads to the next.
And go right back through it.
Yeah. This was great because I was thinking about this before we even started, and it just flowed right into where I was. So thank you.
Yes, that makes me so happy.
Yay. Anybody else feel empowered to make a decision, or you just feel really good? We'd love to hear, what decision did you just make, or what was it about? Because sometimes that, helps encourage others or trigger a decision they need to make. Anybody else want to share while it's fresh? Or maybe a decision that is kind of swirling up there that you're going to commit to applying this filter. Maybe you got through one, or maybe you were just kind of learning the process, and then you're going to go to apply it to the next one. You just found the email. Yeah, okay. And I get my own email. So that's the weird thing, is I even checked my spam, but okay. It's really great to go through with, her husband and children as they're moving forward. I love that, right? Because you're teaching them how to think. So that's a great thing to do. So, all right, you guys. Well, this is super helpful. I hope this brought some clarity from that place that maybe was a little cluttered up there before coming in today. Thank you so much, Laura, for just pouring out today and leading us so well. And all of that. Yay, the whole process makes so much sense. I will use it from now on. Commit to my option B decision. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, you guys, come over into the community where we can be talking about what those decisions are and what we are going to be doing about them and how we're going to stick with them when the enemy maybe wants us to second guess the decision, or we start doubting because we're not seeing the fruit right away. We know the world around us wants this everything instant. And sometimes there just takes that just steadfastness that is necessary. So just drop the link to the community in there. If you're not already a member, please come join us so you can have some conversation. We can support you in fleshing this out. And then we'll see you guys tomorrow on day 3, where we are going to tackle a place with Tracy where the clutter tends to build up and cost us a lot of precious time and mental bandwidth and sanity. And you know what that is? Those digital spaces, right? We are literally going to be tackling 2 specific digital spaces tomorrow. So if you want to know what they are, look at day 3 in your guide. I'm not going to tell you ahead of time. I'll make you look, and come back tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time to join us. Like I said, be watching your inbox for the replay later on today. If for some reason you don't see it, you can directly email me, lissa@redeemhertime.com. And then I will resend it via a different format because I want to make sure that everyone who registered is getting those as well. So, all right. Well, thanks for being here, you guys. We will see you all in the community and see you back here tomorrow.